We are live now. Hi everyone, this is Mariam Farhad Ali from Karachi, Pakistan. And today I am live from SDGs Expo 2020 Pakistan page, which is a movement, a campaign to raise awareness of sustainable development goals in Pakistan. And we are live with a guest here, Miss Rudan, who is currently MA candidate at the George Washington University in International Affairs and Conflict Resolution. She is also a human rights activist. Hi, Rudan. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am very well. Today we have a very interesting topic, which is interfaith harmony, and we will be questioning a lot, Rudan, about this, so
Mhm.
that we can know about interfaith harmony. And so my first question would be that how do you define interfaith harmony? Because as a layman, when we talk about interfaith harmony, we know that people with different beliefs, when they live together, they are like celebrating their differences, but also celebrating their um, similarities, and then they are like embracing diversity to regulate peace in society. So, how do you define interfaith harmony?
Sure. So, very similar to what you just mentioned is really celebrating the similarities and coming together despite the differences. For me, interfaith harmony, really the focus is on a community practicing mutual understanding and practicing interreligious dialogue that then leads to a culture of peace and nonviolence. So interfaith harmony cannot really exist if members of a society don't feel included, or if members of a society, if it's minority religions, if they don't feel that they can practice their religion without judgment or without fear of consequences, then that lacks interfaith harmony. And so it's crucial for a society, if they do want to reach that state of peace, to really practice that through dialogue.
So, like, how important is to have interfaith harmony for peace regulation in a society?
It's extremely important. I mean, I think what we will often find in this world, whether we're reading the news or when we hear about conflicts happening around the world, you will often find that the conflict is a result of a lack of interfaith harmony. So having that interfaith harmony will automatically create this better sense and more comfortable and safe environment for citizens. So interfaith harmony is extremely crucial when wanting to reach peace. I personally, I'm Kurdish. I come from North Iraq. So a lot of the conflict that happens in our country is because we have so many religions. And so instead of coming together to unite, we fight. And that's definitely not the right step to wanting to attain peace.
Do you think that there should be interfaith dialogues like in universities, by youth groups, or by governments? They should really arrange interfaith dialogues that people with different beliefs, they sort of sit together, and then they talk freely, and then they resolve their differences.
Mhm. Yes, definitely. I think interfaith dialogue has to be the first step taken to reach this process of interfaith harmony. The first thing you need to do is you need to be able to create a platform to talk about your differences. We wouldn't make the friend that we have all over this world with people from different backgrounds if we didn't have that interfaith dialogue. Or political leaders, they wouldn't be able to come to agreements or reconcile without this interfaith dialogue. So it's definitely extremely crucial to start this. And it can start from all aspects, whether it's education, whether it's politics. It really also just starts from the home as well. You know, how you speak to your future children about your religion and other people's religions, that's going to determine the interfaith harmony level of your society.
And what about governments?
Yes, governments, I mean, I personally think that governments should be the first people, government leaders specifically, should be the first people to take that first step of creating interfaith dialogue. So when a country practices various religions, even minority religions, governments have a responsibility to recognize those religions, whether they're minorities or not. So whether it's through speeches, whether it's through religious celebrations, it's really up to the government to bring its people together, even if they have different religious backgrounds.
Right. Do you think that the world has progressed very well, like in terms of infrastructure, in terms of medicine, science, and technology, but has lost humanity? Because these days we see a lot of speech, racism, these sort of things that interrupt our society, the peace. So, do you think that interfaith harmony has something to do with it? The lack of interfaith harmony can be one of the major factors in this.
I think that this world still practices humanity. You know, I don't like to say that the world has lost its way in creating a more safe environment for its people. But I do think that with the technology that we have nowadays, we can expose injustice a lot more. So obviously in the media, we see a lot more happening because we now have the tools to show what's happening around the world. So I don't think that we've lost the way, but I do think that, again, it starts with how we teach our children at home what interfaith is, and being different doesn't necessarily mean being bad, and how we really teach this next generation, and including ourselves. Really, I feel like our millennial generation is sort of the first generation to ask questions and become more tolerant and learn more about the person that's different from me. So I think that we haven't lost the way. I think that we can really use those advances to our advantage, like technology. We can really start promoting social media as a form to educate one another, really using that to your advantage to spread this message of tolerance and coexistence.
So, you are saying that children should be taught about interfaith harmony because they are the future generations. Instead, we are talking about interfaith harmony to youngsters and then university students. But both things are crucial. But when we
Definitely.
teach interfaith harmony to children, because they are the coming generation, so it's very important. So, do you think that at the university level, it should be taught, and then at school level when children are in very tender age?
Yes, I think that it should be taught. It should become a part of an essential part of the education system in general, whether it's, kindergarten all the way to university. It's extremely important. Like I mentioned, I come from North Iraq. In Iraq, the the majority religion is Islam, but we do have other religions in the country. So when we go to school, if you, for example, go to a high school in Iraq or in the north of Iraq, if you are Muslim, you will be asked to partake in an Islam class. But everyone else who is not Muslim is asked to leave the room. So what I think is that there definitely needs to be a reform of education in countries like Iraq, where students can practice their own religion and then also learn from the religion of others. I mean, we shouldn't be kicking students out of Islam class just because they're not Muslim. That's a great opportunity for them to learn about Islam. And it's a great way for us to obviously also learn about the other minority religions. So I definitely think that interfaith harmony is a conversation that needs to be had at every age level.
Yeah. What do you think of religion as a in a culture? Like a nation is not formed by religion. Like people of different beliefs, they are living together uh, with a culture. They are developing a culture, and then the norms, living together despite of having different faiths. So, do you think that a nation is formed by its religion?
I think that you
Majority of
mentioned
people,
culture too.
like
Yeah, I do. I think that religion and culture oftentimes go hand in hand. I do think that it oftentimes is shaped by religion. But I think when it comes to interfaith harmony, we need to emphasize the fact that religion doesn't teach us to hate. religion isn't what leads us to conflict or to war. It's the sort of lack of education that we're getting on other things that lead us to hate on each other or to discriminate. I mean, the prejudices that we have, they weren't created because, we read the Quran or we read the Bible. These are created at playgrounds or in your own home when you hear your parents maybe talk about a different religion in a negative sense. So I do think that religion shapes a nation, but I think it can shape it for the better if we include education in addition to that.
Rudan, you came from Iraq. It's sort of like a torn country, we can say, because of the war and all. So, how did you explain how did you experience the trauma and the things that has had been going on in your country, and did it destroy your mental peace, or how did it affect you as a child?
Yeah. So I had the privilege of being able to grow up in a much more safe environment. I actually grew up in Europe, in Germany and the Czech Republic. But I did live in Iraq around 2013, 2014 when ISIS first came. And that was an extremely traumatic experience because, here we have a new terrorist organization coming into our land. It was definitely a very, very traumatizing experience. And again, it showed how much lack of education can lead people to be recruited into an Islamic terrorist organization like ISIS. So really, you saw that the members that were joining this organization were clearly members who were uneducated. They came from poor areas. So again, it sort of highlights the lack of education that we're giving our people, which then allows them to get used and abused by terrorist organizations like ISIS.
So, thank you so much, Rudan, for giving us your time, for joining in. I just want to ask you a last question: that what message do you want to give to youngsters and adults who want to explore the interfaith and practice the interfaith harmony in a society? What message do you have to give them?
My message would be to just stay curious. If you have questions, ask them. That is the only way we're going to learn. I'm currently in Washington, D.C. right now. We're witnessing a huge human rights movement through Black Lives Matter. And the only way that we can learn more about this movement is by asking the people for information. Stay curious and spread love. I think that this world just needs so much of that, especially right now. So really spreading empathy and continuing to learn. That's the only way we can really progress in this world.
Great. Thank you so much, Rudan, for joining us from Washington, D.C.
Thank you.